Hello, my name is Parker, and this is The Force Unlimited, yet another Star Wars Unlimited podcast. No Ned tonight because we recorded earlier. Over Labor Day weekend, Ned and I went up to PAX West, the Penny Arcade Exposition in Seattle. While there, we had the fortune of talking to Alicia and Tyler from Fantasy Flight, so this week's episode is that conversation. One note, we brought a camera and a tripod, but those were we were recording at the Learn to Play tables, and let me tell you, those tables were stacked. All weekend, we saw people at every table either learning how to play SWU or pretending to learn how to play SWU so they could get a promo Grogu. Ned and I made a judgment, the call at the moment, just an executive decision that our smaller YouTube audience wasn't worth as much as two new fans to the game. So instead of video, YouTubers get to look at some pictures of Darth Vader in honor of James Earl Jones. I hope you enjoy the nuggets of info we were able to glean, pry from two stone cold professionals. We will see you in a few weeks. Thank you for joining us. This is Ned and Parker
Howdy.
of The Force Unlimited. We're joined by Tyler.
Hello, friends.
And Alicia.
Hey, everybody.
Fantasy Flight. We're just going to dive in. But last time, when we interviewed Ryan Serrano, we made the mistake of asking the question I really wanted to ask immediately when we expected him to answer it. So this is our last question in the interview. We're going to ask it first, so you have 30 minutes to let it stew. What questions do you always wish someone would ask you about your job? So that is not our first question. That is our last question.
Okay.
Our first question
I'll
is...
answer that later.
Yes, we will prompt you later. Outside of card games, is there a traditional game that you would say is your favorite?
Traditional here meaning like a tabletop game and not a computer game.
Okay, specifically not a computer game.
Specifically not a computer game.
Unmatched is maybe the most elegantly designed game I've ever encountered. So it's a perennial favorite of mine, particularly because I'm also the kind of person that prefers the 15-minute game length. I'm looking at Star Wars Unlimited.
Weird, really? No.
Yeah, funny that I have to say that. So
Not many games where you can play like Dracula versus Spider-Man versus Shakespeare.
Well, and all the different characters also means that you can just keep replaying over and over and over again because there's just a million permutations of how the characters match up, let alone how the decks match up in any particular shuffle.
Did you ever play the Star Wars Epic Duels?
No, but one of my close friends did, and so she's actually the one that put me on Unmatched Existing because she also she still has all her old Epic Duel stuff.
Oh wow!
Famously unbalanced.
Yes.
Obi-Wan was completely. Sorry, was it Obi-Wan?
It was Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan was completely unstoppable.
Yeah, there was a couple, and the dice made it weird. You got really long grindy games, but Unmatched is better. But yeah, okay.
Yeah. My answer is a little bit different. So I love co-op games. I came up as a co-op player. One of my absolute favorite games, even before I joined Fantasy Flight, was Arkham Horror Second Edition.
Yeah.
That was my gateway game, if you can believe it.
That's not a
That's
gateway
a
game.
wild
It
gateway
sure
game.
isn't.
No, that's categorically not a gateway game.
No, well, it was for me, and but I've played video games my whole life, and so I've kind of got that puzzle solved in mind. But co-op games. I love a good co-op game.
Beautiful.
Have you played? I'm going to cheat. Have you played Overcooked?
No.
Okay, we need to play Overcooked later.
Overcooked is a little bit too stressful for me, but I can appreciate what it's doing.
Overcooked is my favorite video game.
Okay.
If you had asked. Well, not favorite. One of
It's
favorite.
really close in that like video game party game
Yeah.
vibe. So, but
My son is really into trains, so there's like Conduct
Yes,
Together
yes.
that is like a
The train one.
train version kind of.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
if you've ever wanted the stress of being in the kitchen while being a cartoon character,
Look, I live with anxiety, so give me more. Give me more. I can
Not
do
the
this.
normal response.
I can solve this. I can fix this.
All right. Next question: is there a mechanic in another game that you love irrationally?
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of games
Yeah,
in
no,
other
please
mechanics
explain,
in other
yeah.
games that I love irrationally. I'm a gamer. Specifically, I'm always notorious, you might say, for wanting to put comeback mechanics into games.
but you also like short games.
Yeah, well, but I want them to be
Exciting
I
all
want
the
them to
way
be
through.
exciting all the
Yeah.
way through. But what that actually ends up with is that I put all these comeback mechanics into a game, and then instead of it being loud and dramatic, both players are like highly reserved. It's like, how can I get the smallest edge over my opponent so they don't get a big reward, big advantage? And so, to your specific question,
Yes.
there's a resource mechanic that is in an old TCG that I played as a kid that is now back in a new game that I also love. It's the zero-sum resource mechanic.
Oh yes, I'm familiar with the game, and why you're specifically not mentioning the specific name of the game as we're moving forward. Yes.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, the old Decipher game that had that, and now Digimon does it.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. The Decipher Lord
So
of the
if you
Rings game.
essentially spend things
Yeah.
that allows you.
So I can spend as many resources as I want,
Yeah.
but the more resources I spend, the more you get to spend to counter me.
No, that was one, and that made like denying your opponent resources a really big part of the game element, and like Hobbit and Build a Pony based decks were remarkably strong for that reason. Yeah. Anyway, all right. I love building. Anyway, question number 4. What is something that you think that the SWU team could improve upon? Hard questions.
We like hard questions. I think, I would say,
Yes.
especially because we're starting to get closer to organized play. I cannot believe, planetary qualifiers start in almost a month.
Yes.
It's bonkers. And as we get closer to that, we're starting to roll out more communications and more frequently. And I definitely think that is something that we keep in mind with especially, again, I'm a marketing manager.
Right.
I always have communication strategy on top of mind. Is figuring out what is the sweet spot for how much information, like what is the information drip look
Right.
like? That's such a gross way to say that.
No,
it's
but
true.
you want to ration it out, right?
Yeah.
Like if you give somebody 10 pieces of candy all at once, they're going to enjoy it a lot less than like one piece of candy every couple of days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing too. Again, because we're getting really close to the true start of competitive play.
Yeah.
As we get into season 0, it's going to be more frequent because there's a lot more happening right now. So
Excellent.
So related to that, a TCG, is so much bigger in scope than an LCG or a board game, and requires coordination on a grander scale.
Particularly with a property like Star Wars.
And then there's licensing, just adding that extra fun layer. How do you plan for? The meta is going to be different. We're going to have different sets in 2 years, 3 years. But I have to assume that despite not knowing how the community is going to react to the meta, to supply and supply issues, overabundance, shortages are both bad. There people have very strong opinions about subsets of the IP, and you're trying to plan years out. I have to assume, you're not starting for Twilight now. So how do you plan that far out compared to maybe something where you're just planning on a one and done, but planning on a living thing 3 years out?
Yeah, it's challenging.
Yeah.
It's very challenging. And again, you nailed it absolutely. Trading card games inherently are very different strategically than a board game or an LCG or a video game or anything like that. So I think one of the things that we always keep in mind is listen. We always listen, and such a big part of what we do in the marketing department, and I can extend that over to the designers and anybody who's working on Star Wars Unlimited, is we're listening to the community. I am constantly in fan groups, in Discord, monitoring for listening spikes, all of these different data metrics for us to essentially make micro changes. So we have this very large scale, high level strategy that's happening, and you're so right. We're planning X number of increments here.
Don't give them any numbers because otherwise they'll know. They'll know.
But as we plan forward, we're able to make those micro changes so that we are listening on a more day-to-day basis. Like, perfect example is, releasing new tournament regulations. And as we make those micro changes, especially with our judge program getting up and running, that is, put on by Cascade Games, listening to those judges, they are the experts here. And what can we learn from them, and what can we learn from players online, what can we learn from players at events to tweak and change so that the game continues to evolve.
Wonderful.
And to add on to that, we are all coming at this from, in some cases, decades of experience in the industry.
Right.
So we are putting our best foot forward, and we are very confident with our best foot. However, no one's going to do it perfectly, especially not the first time.
Oh no, yeah,
first time out.
it's hard. Yeah,
So like, even though I'm very proud of what we've put out so far and what we're
Very much.
about to put out,
Very much.
the reality is we're not going to get it right, and so the feedback we can get helps us really tailor the specific, the not just what's the best execution for these systems in a theoretical sense, but what's the best execution for these systems for Star Wars Unlimited and Star Wars Unlimited players specifically, right? Because just because it works over, in another game, other TCG doesn't mean it's going to work for us necessarily.
No.
Yeah.
So like reevaluating from base principles.
Yeah. But the getting the feedback is the important part of it.
Yeah.
Speaking of feedback, what do you wish the SWU community, specifically content creators, but it's 2024, everybody's a little bit content creator.
Right.
What do you wish
Everybody's on Twitter.
Right? What do you wish the SWU community would talk about more or do more of? I mean, I feel like the SWU community, like especially content creators, is a narrow slice compared to more established games. What do you wish we would do? You could see more of when you're on Twitter or YouTube.
I know what I personally want to see more of, which is I just want to see an endless supply of deck techs, because so much of what makes this game fun is the creativity in deck building.
Yeah.
And I think that not only the more people get to talk about the creativity of their deck building, not only is it going to let us see more people's creativity and accolade them for getting to do the thing that's fun, but also it's going to make all the players better, because if people aren't constantly trying new things and then talking about the results of trying new things, that's just iterative science, right? Yeah. We try the thing and then we talk about it and then we try the next thing.
Yeah, no, this is something that Parker and I talk about a lot, is this idea of exploring. If you have this, like, you imagine this topology where you're dropping, each deck is you're dropping little balls on it, and you're seeing how they flow and what the height is, and it's a really beautiful kind of a system.
And not to write something off just because you think it might not be good.
Right.
Try it anyway. Yeah. Because if it's wacky and out there, you might not solve it, but the third iteration of it might.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
As somebody who's really bad at evaluating cards, watching people say cards are bad and then come later say, no, never mind, these are good.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite
thing in the world.
The mea culpa list. We were wrong. Because I'm terrible at it.
I've been there.
So
100%.
Yeah.
There in previous games that I've played, there have absolutely been like people have shown up with a deck that I'm like, but those cards are bad, and then I lose, and I'm like, what is going on here?
But are they?
Yeah.
Why did I lose?
Yeah.
And then to hear them talk about why, because it's one thing to just to be like, hey, look, the deck actually was good when you thought it wouldn't be, but also to get into the like, no, we specifically chose this card for this specific circumstance that we thought was going to come up, and then it did, right? Like,
yeah.
And that is a beautiful moment when that happens. Yeah, when they all kind of line up. Yeah, I think something that I would love to see more in the community in general, but specifically content creaters, is playing with the younger audience. Because I am fist bumps, yes. So I think a lot about my nephew right now. My nephew is 8, and he is absolutely obsessed with this game.
Yes.
Just obsessed with it. And I was that way with games when I was his age. Lots of different games, so many different games. Some games that are still here and some that are not. And I think it's this really special moment when you're at that age and you find something that clicks for you.
Yeah.
It makes me so happy to see when creators do that, and when somebody who is just a player and is sharing, hey, I just taught my 12-year-old how to play. We play as a family now. I think that's something that is so special, specifically about tabletop in general.
Yeah.
That and this game is for all ages. I mean, as long as they can read and kind of understand that strategy, that basic strategy level, it's something that is so special.
Tabletop is about shared experiences, and that's something that's really important with your family.
Well, we've got our niche then.
Yeah,
Our sons are 8 years old.
Yeah.
My son loves
Target
Star Wars
audience,
Unlimited.
right there.
The problem is, and I've told him, as soon as he can play 3 games in a row, he can come to organized play. He loves to play, but after like 2 games, he's like, all right, let's go do something else. And, like, I'm done. And he wants to play it. He asks every day. He adores the game.
That's
He
awesome.
was very excited about yesterday's Plo Koon reveal. Like, that's his,
Plo Koon's great. I've been championing that card for a while, so I hope he's. I don't think
he understands the
I hope
card.
he's
He
good.
just wants the character.
The artwork and the character.
As he said,
Oh,
Plo Koon is his favorite
Oh, okay, good.
Clone Wars era non-evil Force user.
You got to get those specifics in there.
All right,
I'm
I'm gonna take some notes.
Take some notes. So.
On the
Do it
subject
for the
of
kid.
losing that you brought up, what is the saltiest you've been over a game?
I'm not usually that salty.
Really?
As a general rule.
Okay.
Nah, like losing is part of the game,
Yeah,
and also I'm more here for the fun excitement than I am for the winning.
Okay.
That said, when I draft a deck that on paper should be incredible, and it has all the bombs, it has the lane was open, the deck is I could have built it if you just gave me all the cards, and I feel great. And then it goes like 1 and 2, and I'm just like, what is happening?
Oh no,
This would be so good.
It's a perfect loaf of bread, and you're still hungry.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat, honestly. Again, I like co-op.
Yeah.
I'm here for the vibes, but there was one game, and I was play testing a Twin Suns deck.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I had ever played it. I built it, and so it's a little bit janky.
Yeah, sure. Not all the rough edges have been sanded off. Yeah.
Some things that don't work and lots of editing. But I was playing this, and we were playing it in the office, and I was playing with Xander and Corey and our graphic designer Mason. And Xander was playing his Thrawn Twin Suns deck. And so the leaders I had the Mandalorian, and then I had Bo-Katan as the second leader. And I was about to get the Darksaber on Bo-Katan and sweep the whole game. I was so excited, but Xander is playing Thrawn as leader. He knows that I have the Darksaber in my hand.
No, of course.
And we make eye contact, and he's like, I know what you're doing, and announces to the whole table, Alicia has the Darksaber. And I went, no, I was so close.
Go gang up on her.
That's a lot of salt.
And then they all did, and I was done.
And then
I
you
was
lost.
done.
Ice cold.
I will never forget it.
No, brutal. We love it.
Segueing into another negative emotion question. Tyler,
coming
what
for
is
us.
your least favorite aspect pair to design for?
Oh,
why? Not to play. Which ones?
Yeah.
There's a hole in the set.
When I play MMOs,
Yes.
my preferred role is tank because I don't want to die. That's my vibe. I want to be the guy that cannot be defeated.
No, that's
You be quiet. So when I'm designing blue cards, and especially when I'm designing blue hero cards, which are generally more compassionate, and less ruthless, I have a strong tendency to be like, this guy's not gonna die. Let's just pile on the survivability because blue survivable, hero survivable. Let's go. And the card in a vacuum, it's a bit much, but it's probably fine. But then there's like 6 of them in a row, and you put them all in the same deck, and it's an absolutely miserable experience for the opponent.
Just to grind.
So then you have to go back
and
And then all my coworkers need to hold me down and change it for me. So I'm going to say blue, but blue hero mostly because what I want to do leads to unfun games. So they need to not let me do what I want.
See, I'm like a removal person, so like in my perfect universe, the board is just constantly clear. Nothing's alive.
The opposite version of unfun,
but extremely unfun as well.
Yeah.
So Tyler, you're known as a fan of cubes. What's your favorite cube movie? No, I can't.
Favorite cube movie?
Cube? You've got Hypercube. You've got Cube 3.
Cube 2. Don't forget about Cube 2.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of these movies.
Oh man,
they're filmed in a cube.
Out. Yeah. No, but seriously, is there anything?
Does the room count?
No. Yeah.
Well, then I got nothing.
Technically.
But seriously, is there anything unique that SWU brings to a cube style of play?
Yes, it's the aspect system.
Okay, so can you unpack that?
There are a lot of things that we need to do when we design a set to make the set function on its own and function according to normal SWU heuristics.
Right.
And we make great draft sets, but we have to hit a certain target every time.
Yes.
Cubes don't have to hit a certain target every time.
You can have the old blue cube.
There are so many interesting things that once the card pool's big enough, I think people are going to have fun designing for, where because the aspect system, on the one hand, like when you do a normal cube, the normal heuristic is just put all the most powerful cards in. Right?
Yeah.
But if you do that, then the draft experience is going to be really, really lame because it's all going to be like 2 color cards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And so then people just have to be forced into their lane.
Very early. Yeah.
But what if there weren't any villainous cards?
Yeah.
Or what if everyone had 2 bases? Or what if, I don't know, like, what if everyone started on 4 resources, right?
Okay,
Stuff like this.
yeah.
There are things that you can do to make the drafting more dynamic and interesting that we wouldn't be able to do.
Right.
Because every card is theoretically playable in every deck.
Yes.
So I'm really interested to see in a year or two what people start doing with the creativity of how to design a set when you just have all the cards to play with and none of the like normal rules.
I will say I didn't know what a cube was until you started tweeting about your sticker cube.
Oh yeah.
Idea. And I have a Google Doc filled with just like I'm waiting for a critical mass of cards, but a SWU sticker cube.
Yes.
So I have like 3 pages.
Oh
of
my
ideas
goodness,
for
you are
stickers.
my hero.
It
My
just,
hero.
I was like, wait, what? This? I love stickers. Any kind of like legacy mechanic, I'm here for. And then I learned about cubes, and that was my real introduction. Here's a kind of a softball one, non-SWU related. Respectively, what are your Roman empires? If you're familiar.
Not SWU related.
Not SWU related.
If you're not familiar with the concept of the Roman Empire, if left unchecked, what can you just monologue about for 20 minutes?
Oh no.
I have a good one.
Oh no, go for
I
it.
have a good one.
Oh, what
And
can
it
I
was-
monologue for 20? Yeah, okay, there's plenty.
I,
Go ahead.
I was literally doing this before as I was packing for PAX West. I was doing card storage.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm a very organized person and a little bit type A, a little bit of a type A person. And how do I organize, like, catalog my cards? What kind of card database am I putting them in? I use the website because I really like that visual tool. But how am I organizing my cards in my boxes? What kind of boxes are they going into? Where is that storage? Where is it? I love this kind of stuff, and I don't get to talk about it often.
Okay.
I was actually talking with Danny about
This explains so much.
Yeah, I know. It really does. I think I was talking with Danny about card storage, and I believe he said, yeah, I just put them in a shoebox, and my brain almost exploded.
Her face turned red.
Oh my gosh.
They're all sleeved. It's okay. Like they're sleeved, but I went, ooh, can I come over and organize your cards? Please let me do this.
Organization is key for me, but I really don't like reorganizing, and I spent way too much time looking at all these other TCGs and what they did, trying to anticipate future problems that my current system might have because I got on to it. However, I also suggest having small children who work for $2 or $3 an hour solves.
There you go.
I gotta call my nephew.
There you go.
I paid $10 shadows sorted,
Great.
done.
Yeah.
Easy.
You know,
And then they get to feel good about themselves.
And they got $10, which in their
And they
minds is
got
a lot of
$10.
money. Like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, the great
Nice,
thing,
nice.
or what I did when I first started to get, set one cards was I bought just so much from GameGenic because I said I'm gonna use it somewhere.
Right.
And so I have a very large bookcase that is, kind of cubes, and I've got each vertical is a different set and different Roman Empire. I literally can talk about this for hours.
In college, I got my degree in molecular biology. However, that's not the point of this story. The point of this story is I should have gotten my degree in English, because
It
really,
is the best degree to get.
No, it really isn't. That's why I didn't get it. But all my favorite classes were English classes, and I should have been. And I went into a creative writing field, like I should have been a creative writer. So the thing that I could talk about for ages is the story architecture.
Okay.
And the ongoing narratives of certain fandoms that I have been a part of for 20 years.
I did my thesis on whether genre fiction can meet the same expectations of like contemporary fiction.
A man after my own heart.
The idea was something like Raymond Chandler, which is just pure genre fiction.
Yeah.
Because my thesis advisor wouldn't let me do Star Trek novels, and Star Wars novels. Was Raymond Chandler able to meet the expectations of modern contemporary fiction?
Yep.
So I agree. But then I had to go get another degree to get a job. So I mean,
See, exactly.
6 of one, half dozen of the other.
I did the opposite. I got the degree in science and then said, nah, instead we're going to use all my passions and go try to get paid.
So you often tweet about design problems you've overcome. Can you talk about a problem you weren't able to solve, or at least you have to put on a shelf for a future
Sure. Exclusive interview secrets.
Yeah.
The original version of Set 1 Han Solo Leader
Yes.
had a fully different mechanical identity for all of design and most of development.
Wow.
And at the end, we concluded that with only 1 or 2 sets, because we added Set 2 at the end of Set 1's development, with only 1 to 2 sets, we fundamentally cannot know what this leader actually does, because it's fine now, but once you add 3, 4, 5, 6 sets, like there is a high likelihood it won't be fine, and we can't possibly know that right now. So eventually, it fit the character perfectly. One day we'll bring it back, and it'll be great. But we're also going to have a full card pool that we can really stress test and understand exactly what this actually does in a metagame, rather than just within the context of its own set.
And because of the leader model of SWU, you'll be able to bring it back as Han Solo.
Yep.
So, and not just
Beautiful.
Have to port the mechanics.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And now that I've said that, it's going to end up on someone that isn't Han somehow.
But we'll never know, right?
Following up in that
True.
vein,
You'll only know if I tell you. So if I never tell.
You never speak of this again.
Yeah, exactly.
we can guess maybe.
Yeah.
In the same vein, what currently released card do you feel least satisfied with or about? You wish, if I had another week, I could have really put another coat of paint on this fella.
I mean, on the one hand, there's always a little bit of that, but on the other hand, we don't sign off on a card unless we think it's the best that it could be.
Yeah.
Right? There aren't any cards in the first 2 sets that I genuinely consider mistakes. Now, that doesn't mean that we haven't learned from things.
Right.
And in fact, you're going to see a lot of learning in year 2. In every year, or after every set, we look at the set you have a few months later.
Yeah.
A few months later, with a little bit more context, we look back and we're like, okay, but what can we learn from this?
Right.
And sometimes it's something like set 2, the complexity across the board was just a little bit too high. Okay, great. That's going to inform us for the next sets.
Right.
And set 3, we learned stuff from set 3, and there are certain cards that we've learned from. Like someone was asking me about Hunter a little while ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, I understand why you have these feelings about this leader design. We learned from that.
Right.
When you see us do this kind of design again, it will feel more.
It will embody the character more fully.
Well, but more specifically, it will it will feel more like you're always in the game. Because like with Hunter, it's a great design. The problem is we took a two late game mechanics and stapled them together.
Right.
And what we learned is that's better if you take a late game mechanic and an early game mechanic and you staple them together, because then people can feel like their leader is always participating in the game.
Right, you're not holding off. You know, like Palpatine has that kind of mechanic to it, where in the late game you have the flip ability that's really powerful, and then in the early game you've got the sacrifice ability that lets you feel like your leader is participating.
Yes, and Hunter still does that.
Right.
But because he's hard to use, a lot of people have immediate reactions of like, oh, this isn't fun because I don't know how to use this.
Right.
And a little bit of that is that, to my point of set two's complexity is a little high, right?
Right. Is there a risk that Twilight set complexity is too? I mean, that you're learning these lessons.
No. Spoiler alert, no.
Okay. All right.
Some of the lessons we learned later, and some of the lessons we learned immediately. But that's to say, when we start getting into year 2, like I'll actually be able to talk about some of the specific lessons we've learned.
Sure.
Because I can't talk about most of the lessons we learned from set 2 because we implemented them in set 5 or whatever.
Right.
But I think that's really interesting, especially, being one step removed from you all as a design team, is nothing happens in a vacuum. And I think that's something that's universal about Star Wars Unlimited, is whenever, we have an idea for a very far in the future set, marketing wise, design wise, art wise, it's consulted. And we're all able to kind of learn from each other in that way. Which is really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's great. And I mean, I've bounced ideas off of you often.
Oh, yeah.
Said, does this make sense for social media? Does it? And it's like, no, but if you change then it, yeah, you're right. Awesome. And then you go scurry away.
Beautiful.
Thinking back to the 8-year-old comment, Alicia, how are you marketing Star Wars Unlimited to less traditional gamers? Like, I mean, the Star Wars fandom's never bigger than it's ever been.
Yeah.
How do you ensure that OP Night reflects that and maybe not the more traditional TCG audience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've hit on a core philosophy pillar of this game, is that it's accessible and it's easy to learn. And then, pairing it with the amazing Star Wars IP, it does have a lot of appeal for people who have never they don't know what a trading card game is, or they've heard that phrase, but they've never, felt like they could get into that. I think I'm still a relatively new TCG person. I've only been playing TCGs a lot, consistently for about 4 years. I still consider myself new in this, and I remember, going to my first weekly play event and feeling like I didn't belong there. And that's something that I think is really, really key with Star Wars Unlimited, is that we want to make sure that everybody feels welcome to play in any kind of, more organized play way. And I think that is reflected in the type of product support we give for weekly plays. That's, we work directly with our distribution units who hold the relationship with all of these awesome retailers. And again, we're listening. How can we provide you with more marketing support, more messaging support to make those who have never played or touched a TCG feel like they're welcome in this space? And again, as we were kind of going through and looking at organized play specifically for Season 0 as a whole program, that has been a North Star this whole time. Of how do we make sure that someone who's never been here can be here?
That's a really good sentiment.
That was a good answer.
Yeah. Tyler, what is your best piece of advice for limited players?
If you're experienced at playing Constructed, don't assume that it's going to be like Constructed. And specifically what I mean is, don't assume that you're under the gun from turn 1. When I first started drafting, I was drafting as if I was drafting a constructed deck. So I was like, I got to have all the 2-drops. I got to be really
fast, make sure that
fast and hit the ground. Every turn as much as possible. Try to end the game fast, and that is possible, but it's not the norm.
Right.
You know what is going to be really good in those decks, but also or in any deck, including those decks, 5 drops, 6 drops, 7 drops even, because the game is just not going to be over by then.
Right.
And so it's easy to be like, okay, do I have enough 2 drops? But you know what people don't ask? Do I have enough good 5 drops? Do I have enough good 7 drops? Because at some point the game is going. Both players are going to deploy all their forces. They're going to smash into each other. And then if I have a 7 drop and you don't, I'm going to win.
Right.
And so what I've learned is I actually do prioritize these big, expensive, powerful, high impact but also high expense cards.
Yeah.
Because in most games, you will get there. And if I have it and you don't, then I'm going to win.
Yeah.
Last week I had a Ray deck that I drafted for Gentle Giants, and that was really fun. It went off.
Yeah,
brilliant.
I love it.
Just stalled. I didn't have any 3 or 4 drops. I just ones and twos.
Ones and
Ray
twos,
kept going.
And then Ray
I knew I'd survive to turn 5, and they might have an answer for one Gentle Giant. They do not have an answer for a Gentle Giant after a Gentle Giant, and then
All Giants. Oops, all Giants.
Oops, all Giants.
Oops, all Giants.
So this is the question I've been waiting to ask since we started crafting our questions. Your favorite thing in the Star Wars universe, person, place, ship, whatever, that you've never put in a deck?
Oh, this is a cheap question, and you know it. Literally anything I say, everyone on the internet's going to be like, oh, this person's coming.
I did it.
Guaranteed.
But no, you've never put
the
it
opposite.
in a deck.
You've never put in a
What's
deck.
your favorite thing
Yeah.
you've never put in a deck?
Never.
Yeah. But once I say that, they know I want to.
Yes, but you have not yet.
Okay.
Reverse psychology.
So I'm gonna give you. This is an honest answer, and also it's far enough out there that no one can reasonably expect it to be coming. Which is my boy Ransom Casterfo deserves to be on a card, so I can put him in a deck. And if you know who that is, I'm proud of you. And if you don't, then that's normal.
I'm normal for once. Wow.
I am new to the Star Wars fandom. I've inherited it from my son, so I am deep diving. I was movies only until just like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes.
So much great stuff.
Yeah, but now
There's
it's
so much. It's awesome.
My boy Casterfo is from the Bloodline novel, featuring Leia as an adult senator.
Okay.
Deep cut.
Deep cut.
I have a less cryptic answer.
Okay.
Ahsoka.
I assume,
Ahsoka.
I'm assuming it's less. You're less in the future. You're at the same speed we are.
Yeah.
It's Ahsoka. She is my favorite leader that we've announced so far. I mean, I love my Leia deck. I will always love that was my first deck. I will always love that deck. I cannot wait to make an Ahsoka deck. I've loved that character since the Clone Wars animated series. Seeing that journey of that character change and grow over many years. I love that character, and her ability in set 3 is super fun.
She's really unassuming, and I think there's a lot of people that will overlook her for being as simple as she is, but she's extremely fun to play.
Especially, being in the 2-player starter. It's some of the first, that's where a lot of people will start and say, okay, this is more of a beginner. I'm going to move on to some of the other, more rare leaders or this, and I'm going to stick with my girl. I'm so excited.
I will say that Starter Darth has shown that you can be a starter leader and be extremely competitive.
A nuisance, if you will.
Oh boy, I hate Vader Green is my least favorite deck by a mile.
Literally no. There is literally no leader that can match up with a 5/6 deploying on 5 resources.
Yeah.
Just impossible. Nobody has the big numbers. She has the biggest numbers.
In your opinion, how would you define a healthy competitive format? Speaking of 5/6 for 5 resources.
Sure. A healthy competitive format is one where player creativity is rewarded. And what that actually looks like is a variety of a variety of archetypes that all have the chance to win. And not just and simultaneously that is a variety of deck builds, but also a variety of deck archetypes that my aggro deck has just as good a chance to win as your control deck.
Right.
And it's just a matter of understanding what I expect the players to bring to that specific tournament, and also what styles of deck I'm optimizing my strategy to play against.
Right.
Right. But also, fundamentally, I would say metagame is healthy if players can bring their favorite characters to the tournament and have a chance at it.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, extremely optimistic, but
Sure.
that is how I am going to define a healthy competitive metagame.
I mean, you gotta shoot for the stars.
Yeah.
True story.
Yeah.
Ned's spouse and my spouse are all four of us in a group chat, and Ned was doing far better than he thought he would with Grand Inquisitor at a tournament,
Good.
and just kept having to send
My man.
like.
Bam!
I thought I was going to be home by now. I'm sorry. I am not.
I'm sorry. I'm still winning.
I'm still
Yeah,
winning.
what was
I just
happening?
can't stop
I
winning.
expected to scrub out.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And he went top
I must
8.
apologize. I'm too good at this game.
Yeah. So I got to watch that play out.
Nice. Nice.
Finding out the same moment as his wife.
Yeah.
We have reached our last question. What question do you always wish someone else would ask you about your job?
I'm gonna have another cop-out answer because the question that I want people to ask me about
Yes.
is not a question that I'm allowed to answer because I want people to ask me about all of the cool ideas I have for future sets.
Right.
I've been sitting on Twilight of the Republic for like a year and a half, and I can finally start to talk about it. And right now I'm also sitting on Secrets of Power,
I was gonna say,
which I'm not going to get to talk about for another year. And then I got a bunch of ideas after that, and I'm like, oh, I just want to talk about them so bad.
We saw your cryptic tweet about
Yeah.
secrets.
Yeah. I mean, we did discuss it. If you listen to our episode, blink twice if you want to confirm something that we've said.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna not look at you real quick.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck with those of us who are in the office part of the company, and it's just not the same.
No, it's not.
It's just not. I remember right when Set 2 had gotten announced, I had so many friends messaging me and saying, what can you tell me? And I'm like, I can't.
Yeah, no.
I'm not going to ruin the fun. Like, I want people to be able to explore it and discover it, but it's hard.
It's hard. My best friend growing up is a Star Wars fan, and he's specifically a Star Wars fan of the clones.
Okay.
And so I've been like, just wait. I can't tell you anything. Just hang on. We'll get there. And now he's like, I showed him the Clone Trooper tokens this week, and he got all excited.
Oh man.
And I was like, and this is just the beginning, my guy. This set is for you. You have no idea. And I'm like, okay, we're getting there.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's so much. There's so much. I think, one of the really interesting things for me as, I do marketing, and I've always been in entertainment. So I've worked for a global entertainment company, working in theme parks, and I've, been in gaming for almost 4 years, a little over 4 years. And it's kind of another Roman Empire situation. I could talk about TCG marketing strategy forever because it is such a unique animal.
Yeah.
It's so unique and it's so different. And I've got a lot of friends who are in marketing, specifically board game marketing, and the very subtle differences between when should communications go out, how often should they go out, what type of imagery is best, is it graphic designer, is it photos of us here at the event, like it's these very subtle differences that I'm continually blown away by just how cool it is and how fun it is, because I've been with Fantasy Flight for just a little over 5 months. And it's been just an absolute blast. I have been so interested in other major TCG companies and how they do things and how they, what do they say on social media and how do they do interviews and all of these things. And bringing that over here to Unlimited has just been an absolute blast.
Okay, so I got some questions for you after this interview.
We're mic'd up right now. Yeah.
That's why that's after the interview.
Credit to both the marketing and the design. Like I got out of TCGs randomized booster packs when Tyler was in middle school. I know this because of the blocks. And
we track the years in Wizards of the Coast releases.
and this this is the game that got me back in. So it's
You go evil, I go good.
so thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so
and
much.
Thank you very much
It's
for
been
the
a real
game.
pleasure.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. I'll chat with you guys.
Great.